Let's talk history. This week we're going to be talking about Ezekiel Proctor. Now, I know a lot of you guys have heard about Ezekiel Proctor, but we're going to talk about the history that surrounds him. He is most famously known for his trial at Whitmire Church, which ended in what is called Goingsnake Massacre. So, let's get the facts out of the way. He was born July 14th, 1831. His father was a white man. His mother was a woman of mixed Cherokee blood, which meant she was white and she was Cherokee. He was rumored, and again, this is not a fact, so we're just going to say rumored to have killed 25 men in his lifetime. And his son, Ezekiel Proctor Jr., supposedly said that, but there's no 100% proof to it. He was 7 years old during the Trail of Tears. We know that Ezekiel Proctor had a history for being a little bit rowdy. There's another story, again, never been proven, that he was coming home from a saloon one evening and heard this beautiful piano music coming out of a house. Well, the piano music stopped. He marched into the house and the piano was being played by a 12-year-old girl, so he laid his pistol on the piano and demanded that she finish her song or her music. So he has some rowdy stories tied to him. His son also said that one time he was heading home and he met a young man who was carrying a jug of White Lightning, and the boy refused Zeke Proctor a drink, and Zeke Proctor shot him and buried him. But no proof to those stories. So you're going to hear tons of stories that surround his life, but when you're looking into history, make sure you have your facts. So those are stories that have been handed down, but we don't know if they're true or not. What we do know is he was 7 years old on the Trail of Tears. In 1861, he joined the Union Army. He was slightly wounded and returned home to continue farming. Now, some trouble started for old Ezekiel Proctor. In 1872, during the month of February, he got into a squabble with a cat named Jim Kesterson. Now, Jim Kesterson and him have some issues between each other. And there's several different stories that are floating around on where these issues started. Some say that Jim Kesterson had been married to Zeke's sister and had left her and her kids destitute, which means they were starving. They had no food, no means of helping them survive. He had left Zeke's sister and kids and taken up with a woman named Polly Beck. Okay, that's one story. Another story is that this same woman, because she's going to be central in all this, so remember, Jim Kesterson and Polly Beck, these are the two that Ezekiel Proctor's going to be fussing with. Another story says that Polly Beck's cattle kept getting out and they were disturbing the neighbors. And Ezekiel was serving as some sort of law officer at the time, and he went by their home to tell Polly, good old Polly, to keep her cows up. And another story is, and there's a lot of people that say this one's true, and even Wikipedia kind of alleges that it's true, is that good old Ezekiel Proctor kind of had a crush on Polly Beck. They said she was a very beautiful woman who was also of mixed race. She was part Cherokee, and she had a white dad. She was a very beautiful woman. She had been married to a man named Hildebrand. That was his last name, and he had died fighting in the war. So she was a widow. But also she went on to be married about 4 other times after Mr. Hildebrand died during the war. So some sources say she married him, and some just say that she had lots of boyfriends after him. So anyway, she took up with Jim Kesterson. And good old Zeke, some people say, kind of liked her a little. And he was also, Ezekiel was a member of the Kituwa Nighthawk Society. And the Kituwa Nighthawk Society were very, very traditional. And they said that, basically Cherokee women should not get involved with and marry white men. So they tried to keep very much their traditions alive and tried to keep white men from marrying their Cherokee women. And so you get all this put together, and parts of it, pieces of all of it may be true. I don't know. But we got a fight a brewing. And to add more fuel to the fire, the Beck family fought for the Confederacy during the Civil War. good old Zeke Proctor fought for the Union. So they had different loyalties then. So the Ezekiel, he had Union loyalties during the war. And the Beck family had Confederate loyalties during the war, as most of the Cherokee did, because they were promised if the Confederacy won that they would have a truly Indian state in Oklahoma. So, there's just a lot of politics going on. So we're starting a big fuss. Troubles a brewing. So Ezekiel rides out to what is known now as the Beck Mill. And as a little girl, I say little girl, I was probably a teenager, my dad took me by where the Beck Mill was and showed it to me. And he told me the story of Ezekiel Proctor when he had his big showdown with Jim Kesterson and Polly Beck. So I'm going to leave it there. We talked a little bit about how and why all that trouble was brewing. I'm going to leave it there, and if you will log on and watch tomorrow, you're going to know what happened to Polly Beck and Jim Kesterson and Ezekiel Proctor. It wasn't pretty, and we're going to find out what led up to the Goingsnake Massacre at Whitmire Church.